Hi. So lovely to see so many known names. I thought you would all find something to do on the 1st of January, but lovely to see you all. And we will start at 7, just waiting for some people to join. And thank you. Happy New Year to all of you who wish me. Thank you so much. I had a quiet morning actually, having some painting done in the house and things are going on around me. So, and through these 12 months, I realized I don't really have a office space or an office where I could really create a kind of a mini TV studio to come and share all these things. It's sort of part of my room. My office was, in a sense, my dance studio. That was like going to office. So it's 7 o'clock. It's Friday, the 1st of January. And this is Fridays with Andal. I want to welcome all of you. And I want to say how happy I am that our series Andal's Garden is going so well. And we've been able to reach so many people across genres. We've been able to get people excited about the beauty, the passion, the hidden layers of this amazing young teenager's poetry. So let's imagine that here was this young girl, they say late 8th century, early 9th, whatever it is. But we are now going to the 12th century. And I'm taking you to the 12th century because I want to tell you a story. Today's program is about rituals and miracles, all associated with Andal. But before I introduce and invite my main speaker for today's session, I want to tell you about a story that happened in the 12th century. So it's 300 years after Andal. Her legend is growing. And Parashara Bhattar, who is a very, very famous Vaishnav savant and was the direct and the appointed successor for the 11th century famous social reformer Ramanuja. So this brilliant man, Parashara Bhattar, had an argument with the king in the Srirangam area, with the local king, and he was sort of banished, sent to exile. And he went to Aragar Kovil. It is another Vishnu Kovil near Madurai. And there he was actually feeling a bit listless, sad, because Srirangam was his life. That was his life, and Vishnu was his life. Everything revolved around him being in Srirangam. So at that time, when he was in this exile, somebody approached him and said, "Why don't you compose a shloka to Andal?" Now, Andal's legend was growing. Ramanuja already in the previous century had recognized her brilliance, and her status to a goddess had already happened, and it was also growing in stature. So Parashara Bhattar composed this Taniyan in Sanskrit. And I'm just going to read you the first line so that, and I'll read you the translation, and I'll then tell you what happened after that. Neela Tungas Thanagiri Tati Shubda Udbodhya Krishnam. So it has 4 lines, and the translation is, she awakened Krishna asleep on Neela's breasts that rise like twin hills. Neela Devi is Lakshmi or Shri. She bound him with garlands of flowers she had worn. She reminded him of his duties revealed in 100 Shrutis. To that Goda we bow, we bow. So, Goda tasyai namaidamitam bhuyaye astu bhuyaha. Now, when he composed this, and this is called a Taniyan, it is actually attached to the Tirupavai. In a few days, he was called back. He thought he would never be called back because the argument was so bitter, but he was called back. So this is just one of the many instances where there is a belief that if you think about Andal, if you meditate on her, and if she gives you her hand, she will never let you go. She will not just never let you go, she will take you to great heights. With that, I'm going to invite my guest speaker for this evening. Madhu, I need you to send your request, please, again. I'm seeing so many known names. I'm delighted that all of you are here. So, Professor Madhusudhanan Kalaichelvan, I'm waiting for him to send me the request. He was a lecturer in the Department of Architecture. Yeah.
Be in the video. Are you in the video? Madhu. Yeah, there you are.
Yeah.
There you are. All right. There you are. Ladies and gentlemen, please meet Professor Madhusudhanan Kalaichelvan, Professor of Architecture in a private college in Chennai, but his lifelong passion is the history, the life, the rituals, the magic, the amazing celebrations that surround and embrace temples. And he is an absolute, fountain of information. Recently, dancers have discovered you, Madhu, and are asking you all kinds of meanings, because as dancers, we're always looking for different kinds of interpretations. We need them for our sancharis. So today, Madhu is, by the way, Madhu became a performer. He came on stage and did Arya Seve and played all kinds of various roles in my latest Andal production called Nachiyar Next. But Madhu, welcome to Fridays with Andal. Thank you for being with us.
And thank you once again. Thank you once again for making me a performer on stage. It was such a delight being part of your theatre production and doing something that I've always wanted to do.
So Madhu, I want to start with, I just shared with the audience the Parashara Bhattar, incident. And, but there are two beautiful rituals associated with Andal. Mm-hmm. So I'd like you to tell us a little bit about the Muttukuri, that is the reading of her fortune in a bed of pearls, or it's sometimes done as in a bed of rice. So just take us through that, please. This is the Muttukuri, where the gypsy, the Korati, is reading the fortune in pearls. So Muttu is pearls.
Yeah. So Muttukuri is basically a part of the Arayar Sevai theatre. So we're all introduced to Arayar Sevai being a ritual dance music theatre in select Vaishnavite temples in Tamil Nadu, wherein there are the hereditary Arayars, the people who sing, dance and also enact parts of the Divya Prabandham texts. So as a part of the festival that happens around Vaikuntha Ekadasi, which is actually going on now, they do enact stories like the Ramayana, Kamsavadam, Vamanavataram and all these avatars. And of the half a dozen such productions that they do year after year, as a ritual performance in front of Perumal, what stands out is what is called as Muttukuri. So it is based out of a very, very interesting conceptual development of Vaishnavite philosophy. So the Vaishnavites always believe the Jivatmas, that is, the human beings, the devotees, the Bhaktas here, their aim is to equip themselves with the knowledge of Paramatma, who he is, what he is, where he is, and after understanding about he being the leader and we're all there to serve him, to enjoy the pleasure of serving someone who is as adorable as Krishna. And then we come to know as to why or what is it that is stopping us from reaching the heavenly abode to be at his service always. Though you are capable of serving him here in this world, your service is limited. You have constraints like health and time and chances and all those which will bind on to you and will not give you the actual essence of serving him without being bound by time or other parameters. So that is why you would want to just taste what it is to be at his service when you are here. Understand the nature of all these cords that hold on to you. Help yourself out of it through an acharya and reach the holy abode of Krishna and serve him there without being bound by time or age or any such factors. So this is the quintessence of the Vaishnavite philosophical traditions, which is made understandable to common man through what is called as Muthukuri. As you rightly pointed out, you have three characters which forms a part of the Muthukuri enactment. The primary role done by these three characters, so out of which two of them will be physically represented by the Arayas. One is, of course, the gypsy. The next is the mother of this girl who has fallen in love with Ranganatha, saw him just once when he was riding his horse during his usual parivete, his hunter expedition. So she just happens to see him out of chance, falls in love with the most handsome groom ever, Alagi Manavalan, as he is called, falls in love with him and wants to get united with him, find out who he is. But the love and the charming chap that he is, that which is very strong, moves her out of all her normal activities. She isolates herself, does not find pleasure in playing with her friends. She had a pet parrot, which she completely forgot to dress herself up, to groom herself up. So all those normal aspects of her, she forgot. That is the power of love, which had kind of, taken her in. And noticing all these changes, her mother and friends are worried. And not knowing why all these things are happening, why is her daughter/friend is exhibiting all these, very awkward signs, and not knowing what was happening, they call him this gypsy, who comes there in time, a Vaishnavite gypsy to be particular. Then she goes on to have a conversation with her mother, finds out all the signs that her daughter exhibits, all that she dreams about, she speaks about, she sings, what is it that she generally does. So gets all these clues from her mother, prays to all these gods, and enters a trance. And that is when the plate of pearls come in, a bed of pearls come in, the muttu. So she uses them, casts them over the floor, draws geometric patterns on it, invokes the mandalas, invokes the deities who are in charge of these mandalas, who can answer all these questions, and finally concludes that you basically don't have a business with your daughter anymore. She has, understood what is her purpose here, being born in this world. Now, the best thing to do to at least ensure that your daughter is alive is to take her to Srirangam, leave her there at the main entrance of the Sanctum Sanctorum, come back. You basically have nothing to do with your daughter anymore. So here, the daughter is the embodiment of Jivatma. Paramatma is Ranganatha, who is there. The Jivatma, which has understood the true qualities of Ranganatha, wants to get united with him, but is starved, held on to this world through all these cords, the samsara as they are called. In this case, the mother and friends, who technically don't have a command over the Jivatma, but they think they have and try to hold on to the Jiva there. And that is when the gypsy, the Koratti, plays the role of an Acharya, comes in, introduces Perumal, Paramatma as a Tattva, to both these people who think they belong to each other, while they actually do not. So the Acharya helps free yourself from these cords, advise you the route to be taken to the holy abode of Vishnu, which in this case is Srirangam, to be united with Paramatma once and for all. So
Madhu,
this philosophy.
Yeah. So Madhu, can you just do the entry, the way you chanted it, as when the gypsy comes?
Yeah. So the Muthukuri is crafted based on the 11th Pasuram of Thirumangai Alvar, wherein he starts, he takes the role of the mother who's all worried about her daughter. So this song wherein the status of the daughter as elaborated by the mother comes in, that is where the Muthukuri is fit in. It is fitted there. So the Arayar on the day of Muthukuri starts chanting the 11th Pasuram of Thirumangai Alvar from Tirunadun Tandakam, and that speaks about the silk sari that her daughter was really fond of, that she usually wears, wishes she wears it always. So the daughter there is represented through a silk sari, which is sent from Sriranganachiar's shrine. And the sari is folded like this. It has these frills. So it's held in hand like this. And this also has a knot here with the garland from Ranganachiyar's shrine. And every time a reference to the Jivatma is to be made, the Arayar catches hold of it, holds it in hands, and points out to it very gracefully as if representing his daughter. And Kurati's entry, this is how the mother and the daughter are introduced. Then the Kurati's entry happens. So to give it a tribal touch, the Kurati is given this kind of a wand, the magic wand that she carries, that any Kurati carries, with a basket, a cane basket in her hand. And she is supposed to, beat this up on her shoulders, hold it like that on her shoulders, and she starts walking in like that. She, a very graceful way, she, moves her shoulder like that. And the song goes in a very tribal beat again. Todulavu kadinodu tudulavu kannina Madulavu malpulal valangulavu minsolal Kodulavu velvalai kulungulavu kayyinal Kadulavi vandador karumbidi koropinal. The 16-line song actually lists out all those tribal jewelry that she is wearing, made out of shells and beads and twigs and wild flowers and all that. She carries a kid. She's also pregnant. So because this case of pregnancy is used to attest her vow for being truthful in a later stage. She says, I'm carrying, and you can be assured that I won't lie. So this is how she is painted out, and the Arayar gracefully walks like that with shaking his shoulders like that, and with the wand in one hand, and walks up to Perumal and comes back. So for the audience there, the Arayar, who's basically wearing a panchakacham, wears this typical Arayar kullai, which looks like this. All of this will pose out to be like a Korati in all her tribal jewelry, carrying a kid in her hand and a basket and the magic wand and walking all the way. So this 16-line song is enough to establish the Korati without a bit of an aharyam. That is what is special about the Arayar Sevai theatre. So there is, actually I can say, not even minimum, there is absolutely no special aharyam that gets into it. But for minimum props, like the magic wand or the basket that they carry, or the bow and the arrow when they enact Ramayanam. So there is no elaborate aharyam. It's just the music and the words, probably the lyric part of it is really well crafted to bring in all the characters live there with the backdrop, light effect, all that you want for a production theatre, for a theatre production.
Well, Madhu, they will say that this is Ekahari Abhinaya, where an Arayar, like the Bharatanatyam dancer, is standing there and then goes into all these various worlds and recreates those narratives and shares them with the audience. So that the Arayar is male, slipping into gender, becoming the Korati, becoming the female. It's really very interesting theatrically. But for people who are listening, I just wanted to also tell you that it was the tradition of the Korati and the Koravanjis that later became like, dramatic texts. These were also, this is like the second wave of the Bhakti movement, right? Madhu, 6th to 9th century, we had the first. So from 9th to 12th and beyond, it was getting consolidated. And also at the time around the 12th century, where I was talking about Parasara Bhattar, already the Vachanas in Karnataka, people like Akka Mahadevi and women were beginning to also voice their own personal devotion. It happened to be to Shiva, but in a sense, women's voices were also being awakened, were being, invited.
We had it here much earlier, both in the Shaivite and the Vaishnavite school here. The Shaivite tradition starts off with Karaikal Ammayar. She's the first Bhakti poet who composed songs on Shiva. She structured the literary tool for devotion, which was only followed by Appar and Jnanasambandar a couple of centuries later. And so the devotion that they had for Ammayar is so much that when Jnanasambandar came to Tiruvalangadi, he didn't want to enter the town because it was there. Karaikal Ammayar walked with her head. When she herself hasn't walked on food, I shouldn't enter it. That's the kind of respect that they had. And talking about the Ekahara Aharya thing, I'm only reminded of the Dasavataram part of the Nambi Natakam, the Kaishika Natakam that you have choreographed at Trikurungudi, where it is just that one shawl that is used for all the 10 avatars, one after the other. So it's just that one shawl, but nothing else. and that turns out to be a curtain. And also when the Narasimha Avataram is presented, the way Narasimha tears out the intestine, the shawl is just folded, multiple folds, and that's used as the intestine for the dancer to hold when he does the Hiranya Samharam. So this is a very classical style. In temples, when you have a constraint of bringing in a lot of props, or the aharya being heavy is not possible, I think this is a very brilliant tradition that they have absorbed in several temple theatre.
So I just want to tell our audience, because we have a very wide and general audience here. The reference to Kalaichelvan was much earlier than Andal also, and she was a very beautiful woman. And I say it because I want to bring it as a contrast to Andal. A very beautiful woman who got tired of men just staring at her. She was so devoted to Shiva. She just prayed and said, just make me old. I don't want to be looked at as an object of lust. And here we have Andal, who was so proud of her youth, proud of her beauty, and saying, Krishna, look at me. I'm perfect. I've matured and my body is just perfect for you. And that's what I love about Andal, Madhu, is that everything was so embodied. She was physically just there. She reveled in things of both in herself and in the life around her, and she wanted, she just felt she was so perfect for Krishna. Now, can we move to the Nayaks? Because I know that it's so very important. They were a very important rule at the time, and they really enhanced all the rituals. And tell us about the Nayaks, because they were equally devoted to both Meenakshi and to Andal.
Yeah, the Madurai Nayaks to be particular, thanks to them, we have several of the important temple festivals, rituals, all of that happens in Tamil Nadu in total today. We owe a great chunk of it to the Nayaks. Majority of these main festivals, be it the Meenakshi's Ter festival or the Neerata festival of Andal or the way Srirangam festivals are held. So all these main temples, the way the celebrations happen, we owe a lot of it to the Nayaks. And they were devoted, very religious, and had a kind of an aesthetically pleasing also, because most of these festivals are very beautifully crafted with appropriate jewelry, drapery, silk, and the ritual vessels and the crockery that comes into place. Even the food offerings, of which you spoke, last week. So all of that scheduled for each festival, very appropriate fashion. We owe it to the Nayaks. The Madurai Nayaks, in particular, especially during the times of Thirumalai Nayaka, who was a great Vaishnavite and a devotee of Andal himself. Just one instance to speak about the love that he had for Andal. During his times, he had this very interesting tradition of waiting till the noon services at Srivilliputturu temple gets over. Basically the offering of the lunch to Andal to get over, he'll wait till then. And sitting in Madurai, he had a very interesting way as to how this information exchange happened. Srivilliputturu in today's context is an hour and a half or 2 hours drive from Madurai. Those days when you had to ride a horse, it would have taken its own time. So Thirumalai Nayaka had a system of communication wherein he built bell towers at frequent intervals parallel to the highway that connected Madurai and Srivilliputturu. So the moment the Madhyana Puja or the afternoon services, the puja at Andal temple gets over, after the food offering to Andal is over and the bell for the service is rung, the sound will be heard to a particular distance, and there will be a bell tower built there and a person put in charge. The moment he hears the bell from Andal temple, he will ring the bell in that tower, and there will be a series of such bell towers till the entrance of Thirumalai Nayaka's palace in Madurai. Maybe in a couple of minutes, this information can be transferred, and the moment Thirumalai Nayakar hears the bell at the entrance of his palace being rung, he would wake up from his throne, and for all of his ministers and everybody to see, prostrate in the direction of Srivilliputturu to pray to Andal and ensure that Andal's lunch is over. He would break for his own lunch. So that's the love and devotion and respect that Thirumalai Nayaka had for himself, for Andal. So it was during his times that many of these festivals that we see in Srivilliputturu as they are done today was planned and executed. And the most interesting one is, of course, the Neerata Utsavam. So the Nayaks had, quite an aesthetic sense with which they work. So Neerata Utsavam or the Vaikuntha Ekadasi and the Arayar Sevai that happens along with it, most of it as it is seen today was done during their time. And it was also the time when you had the Portuguese influence and so, various perfumes that went into offering to the deity. when they traded with the Portuguese, and so there was all these perfumes that entered too, like attar and all the other perfumery that came in, silk from other countries and from India too, embroidery pattern, the sewing techniques as it was brought in. So there was a very interesting cross-cultural influence that went into temple arts and performing arts too, starting from architecture to painting on temple walls. Most of these Nayaka period murals that you see, there are very interesting, crossover from other culture. There is a painting from the 18th century, that's late 1800s, wherein you see Krishna and Rukmini posing for a photographer. So that's 100 years back. So you have a colonial period camera with a black cloth, and the photographer is holding it and focusing, and the people waiting to be photographed in the studio is none but Krishna and Rukmini. So you have these kind of cross-cultural influence that came in during the Nayak's period. So temple arts, performing, visual, the articles associated with rituals and pujas, festivals and all this. In Srivilliputturu, you have something called as the Parangi Narkali, which is, Parangi is generally the term that we use to refer the colonial people. So the Parangi Narkali is a chair from the Art Deco period. So the Art Deco style chair with bent legs and a high-rise back and a very embellished armrest. So that is a Vahanam for Andal in Srivilliputturu. During one of the day's festival, she is brought out of the temple for the procession, seated on the Parangi Narkali. So we have several such interesting influences that were brought into the temple, especially during the Nayak time, and so are the festivals and more. Andal as a philosophy was very, very happening and popular mostly during the Nayak period, probably after the Islamic invasion. It was during the Nayak period the Srivilliputturu temple came back to life, and it was organized with many festivals and all these offerings that were made by several devotees.
Are we talking about 16th century now?
Starting from the 16th, slowly, and mostly during Tirumala Nayak's time, all these changes that happened there at Srivilliputturu.
Yeah, so just take us through the Neeratal. Tell us what happens for Andal's hair and that whole bathing ceremony.
Neeratam is an ancient Tamil custom. The month of Margazhi, especially the last 10 days or sometimes the complete month, is used by the women folk to observe a vow, which is also seen in the Bhagavata, wherein the Gopikas in Gokula also during the month of Margazhi, that is mid-December to mid-January, the peak winter season, observed this fast. So taking a ceremonial bath is the most important part of this vow, which is prescribed in the sacred texts. So we have in the ancient Tamil society also what is called as Thai Neeradal. So, Thai is the month that follows Margazhi. From the 15th, mid-January to mid-Feb is Thai. So the month preceding it is Margazhi. So it's called as Thai Neeradal in ancient Tamil text. And so the women folk, especially the women who are not yet married, praying for a befitting partner, wakes up early in the morning. And the best part of this vow is to perform it as a group of devotees. So it's not done all by oneself, because waking up at wee hours in peak winter is something that you don't really want to do. You need some kind of a source of inspiration and encouragement. When you have a bunch of friends who are going to do it, you might as well join. So the part of the tradition is to go from one house to another, visit the doorsteps, call them out, and make a big gathering, chant out the names of Krishna, walk to the river banks and take a dip there, then visit the temple, and of course, that is exactly what Andal did during the 30 days of Margazhi, and out of which we have Tirupavai as a brilliant text of bhakti and devotion soaked completely, wherein 10 songs are exclusively reserved by Andal only to wake up her friends. So waking up friends and gathering all of them together for the ceremonial bath is a part of it. So what Andal observed during her time, at Srivilliputturu is celebrated as the Neerata Utsavam here today, with the bronze icon, the Murti of Andal, being brought out of the temple, taken to a tank which is reserved for this festival, where she's given this ceremonial bath. So the last 10 days of Margazhi, roughly between the 5th of January to the 15th, is what is reserved for the Neerata Utsavam. So as the tradition goes, Andal comes out of her temple in a palanquin, And when she comes out of the temple, she is all draped in silk and jewelry and all that. But there is a translucent muslin cloth with which she is covered, because it's like the early hours of winter and she is taken to the for a bath. So she is all covered. And to take permission for the festival, for the work that she's going to perform from Krishna, Andal comes to the front courtyard of Vatapatra Shaina's temple. That's Vishnu's temple, which is just next to Andal Kovil. So she comes there, and the Arayar renders the Male Manivanna Tirupavai. Because it is in that Tirupavai, Andal requests all that she wants as a result of her vow. So from there, she prays to Krishna for the successful completion of the vow, and she's taken to the temple tank, and there is a mandapam. This tank is called Tirumukkulam in one corner of Srivilliputtur, and a brilliant Nayaka period mandapam that's built there, and she is kept on the stage there. Then when the screens are all opened, she is brought out from the palanquin, placed on the throne that is there for her. You get to see her all bedecked in best of all the Nayaka period jewelry, all the inlaid work, ruby and emerald and all that. And she generally carries her hair lock in a different fashion every day. So from therein, the main part of the festival starts, wherein you have all the priests working as attendants to the princess that she is, the queen that she is, surrounding her. And the day's priests, all dressed in silk and jewelry, because they are the royal attendants of Andal, they start untying the knots of her hair lock. So the complete bund is slowly untied, and it's all brought out loose, extended, and that is when you see her with so much of hair. It just overflows through her shoulder and her back and falls down the throne. So it's just left out like that, loosened slowly. And then you have all these articles made out of ivory and silver and gold, for the comb, and a stick to untie her knots, and to lessen the coarse nature of the hair, to smoothen the texture and all that. So they use a lot of aromatic herbs and scented oil and all that. And a comb made out of ivory is used, and sometimes there is also one made out of gold, gifted by Thirumalai Nayaka. And you have a person standing in front of her holding a large mirror, just in case for her to check on her beauty whenever she wanted. And as this process goes on, you will have a person standing next to Andal with a box made out of gold, all having betel nuts folded into very tasteful pan, all ready there for her, to offer her. And once in a while, as the service goes on, she is offered a pan. And the priest takes it very slowly, close to her lips, and then you will have on the other side, a person holding a spittoon made out of gold, bending there, just in case, to assist Andal to take whatever she spits out. So the pan is chewed slowly and she spits it off. So this is all collected in the golden spittoon.
Who chews the pan acting as Andal? Does anybody chew the pan? Is there an Andal stand-in?
Yes. So that is performed. All of this is done, and then her hair is all greased with scented oil, and it is tied into a bun, comfortable enough in a fashion to take a dip in the water outside. Then her silk sari is changed into a very nice Kandangi sari, which is also popular from Madurai. The traditional weave from Madurai, which was also patronized during the Nayaka period. So every day it's a new colored, checkered pattern Kandangi sari that she drapes around, because that's made out of cotton and it can actually take water in it. So then she is taken to the tank, the bank of the kolam there, and with golden and silver pots, all scented water collected from the tank is used to give her a ceremonial bath. And she stands there taking all of it, and it is a sight to watch. Devotion, aesthetics, whatever be the reason, I would sincerely request artists, especially, to really witness it at least once in their lifetime. It's a scene to watch, and it's just one part of several such festivals that are brilliantly crafted, I would say, with so much of interest to details and all of it. So she is given this bath, taken back to the pedestal, the stone pedestal, and every day it's a different jadai with which she is decorated too. So one day it is all Tadambu jadai, one day it is Marukoldu jadai, one day it is jasmine, one day the jadai is just started with all sorts of billai made out of emerald and the jewelry part of it. One day it's just Swarna jadai. So you have chains so intricately carved made out of gold, and that is used to dress her jadai. And she's back to her palanquin, and in a closed palanquin she comes back to the temple. So this is done like for 10 days, and the 11th day, the day of Pongal, it concludes with the day of Pongal. And so it's basically to reenact the way the Vav was conducted during her own times here in Srivilliputturu. And as a part of it, of course, there is cups, golden cups full of turmeric and all the other accompaniments that goes into a ceremonial bath. So, this in a way also ensures that the murti, is taken care of, as all this herbs that goes into the water and, the turmeric and the traditionally made shiakai and all that going in, the murti is also strengthened, because it's thousands of years old. So to take care of the murti, it's a part of that process also. So this is, in short, how grand the Nirata Utsavam at Srivilliputturu is. Thanks to the Nayaks who envisioned all this and brought in so much of traditions, and the priests and the people of Srivilliputturu who have carried it on at least to a little more than half a century, and it's happening every year the same way.
It's beautiful, Madhu. I mean, I can just imagine what I'm also fascinated about, and I've spoken to the audience about in the past sessions, is that the priests who actually drape her sari, the priests who actually, comb her hair, for her, she's a living person for them, and some of them are continuing to have conversations with her as they're dressing her up, as they're adorning her. And I find that so beautiful. I find that so intimate. And I find that so touching. And that's really beautiful. I want to come back to one of the things the title, we had something called Miracles, right?
Yeah.
So you have this real life story that happened not that many centuries ago about this theater owner, this dramatist, and his tryst with Andal. I wanted to tell us that story.
Sure. You were telling about people talking out to Andal as they serve her or pray to her. I would like to point out that the temple elephant of Srivilliputturu has its own conversation with her. When the elephant is brought there to serve her, to fan her, or to basically entertain her, there is no way that the mahout can force the elephant out, because she would be having a conversation with Andal with all that love. Only when she decides that it is done, she will move out. So that's how Andal is, or for that matter, most of these deities are looked upon. So here is a story of a dramatist, a drama theatre owner, in fact, called Kannaiya Naidu. Kannaiya, and from 19th century, 1872 to be precise. So not very far, not very long back. So he was from Tanjavur district, and by around 12 years of age, he entered theatre. And by the end of his teens, he was already owning a theatre troupe all for himself. So that was the time when the theatre movement was very popular and social themes and all that was staged. So this Kannaiya, who was initially very successful, for whatever reasons, faced several flop shows, and probably that led him to a loss. And the theatre was dissolved, the company was dissolved. So he was all on his own. After having sold all the props and everything that he had, with nothing in hand, after trying his luck in Madurai and Tirunelveli, came to Srivilliputturu, stayed there, begged for food, found his one spare meal a day by begging out there, and only to feel sorry for his own fortune, he used to sleep in the mandapam in front of Andal Sannadhi. One night, after having prayed to her and he went to sleep, had a dream wherein Andal appeared in his dream, suggested that he takes up her story, authors it into a drama, train people and perform it on stage. The best part is, she also suggested two other dramatists from Madurai who were looking out to be a part of a drama troupe. This is what he says. So out of nowhere, he went back to Madurai, found these two people who were employed in a hotel in Madurai, and as cooks. So spoke to them, and they were also in for a surprise when they said, no, Andal told me about you in my dreams. So the three gentlemen formed a troupe, wrote the story of Andal, the Charitram, into a drama and performed it, and it went on to become a super hit. And the drama troupe traveled to Sri Lanka and Rangoon and Malaya and all those places where you had considerable Tamil population in those days, end of 19th century, and made a fortune, in fact. He came back to produce more such dramas like Nandanar Charitram, Bhagavad Gita, Ramayana, and all these, and his drama troupe became very, very popular and a very sought after troupe. So of all the earnings that he made, he spent a considerable part of it to Andal Kovil. I in fact have the list of offerings that he made. It includes one elephant, 2 camels, 3 cows, and a bull also, and a pot made out of gold, what is called as Kannaya Kodam, after the gentleman who offered it. And there is a very, very expensive, beautifully crafted necklace called as Kannaya Padakam, the pendant of Kannaya, which is made out of gold and emerald, diamond and emerald. And there is also the number of stones that goes into it and all that. And a spittoon made out of gold, 6 glasses to offer milk to Andal every day in the night times, again made out of gold, a tray to hold all these offerings to give her, again made out of gold, and Rangoon Kasamale. So he's made a Kasamale made again of gold, and Tangattal Saida Mampinju Male, the Manga Male in Chuluvanga. You have these little pendants made which shaped like mangoes. So and the Male also was also given. And Tanga Kodam and Tumbler and Machil Padakam, Mampinju Male, and all of this. A Tandiyal, so much of silk, screens made out of silk. Because when food is offered, you draw a screen in front of her. He wanted to have those screens also made out of silk. And so several of these offerings made to Andal during his times. And evaluated way back in early 1900s, all of this comes to several lakhs. So, 120 years back, several lakhs of money, offerings worth several lakhs made by a person who only owned a drama troupe. And that too after having missed his fortune and coming down to the streets, only to be helped by Andal to become what he was. And the last day of Kannaya is also very nicely documented. The day that he staged Bhagavad Gita play, he was really sick, bedridden. He said, like, if I'm going to die, let me die watching the play. So he had asked his people to put him on a cot in front of the stage. And he also commanded, even if he dies in between the production, as he was watching it, the show should go on and the drama should get over. Because for him, every drama was an offering to Andal. So if there is going to be, the drama is going to stop in between for whatever reasons, which included his own death, that means the offering has not been made, which he didn't want it to happen. That was the love that, more than devotion, the love that he had for Andal, a drama troupe owner. This is one of those miracles that is well documented. I'm sure there are thousands of such stories for the inmates of Srivilliputtur and people from various other parts of the world, devotees of Andal, through whom Andal commanded, to whom Andal commanded, performed all these miracles for them.
Yeah, you also told me that there is in the culvert, in the stone in Alagar Kovil, Perumal himself, God himself has said Nam Gode. He has not called any other Arvar as mine, as ours, but actually
for Nammalvar and Andal, nobody gets this special addressing by Perumal. This inscription in Alagar Kovil from the Bandya period, he says, the inscription is crafted in a way that it is as if Perumal is speaking. It's in first person for Perumal to speak. He says, Namkodai paattu ketkumbodhu. When I'm here in this mandapam listening to the songs of my Goda. So, that's how close she was to Perumal, and similarly she's close to her devotees too.
Just to come back to the idea of when Kannaya was that Andal came in her dream. Well, Vishnu came in Krishna Devaraya's dream and said, "Write the story of Goda." And he says, what do I write about? He said, write the story of Goda. And that is now, and as we say, the rest is history, because Amukta Malyada is considered a gem of Telugu literature.
Yep.
And for those of you who are more familiar with Andal from the Tamil text, maybe from the Tirupavai and Nachaya Tirumuri, I'm urging you also to read the translations of Amukta Malyada. It's a very beautiful, different Goda, and they both are really complimentary. Madhu, you've given us so much information. Now I just want to know, we have a few minutes left, and I wanted to tell all the listeners who are quite riveted that if you have questions, this is not a great time on Instagram to keep answering questions. Reach out to Madhusudhanan Kalaichelvan. It's a very long name. It's quite a mouthful, but his Instagram handle is very short, and you can find it. And he's a fund of information on anything to do with temples, history, architecture, rituals, and even food and decoration. Dancers, he's an absolute gem as a resource.
Thank you.
Madhu, Madhu, I want you to, is it possible for you to perform something, any one of either the Tirupavai or anyone from with the regular Arayar kind of, with the gestures, something that our audience may have never seen before. So I want to leave with that, with a sense of the cadence of chanting and word and sound.
Sure. I can render maybe the Tirupavai. The first Tirupavai probably, or whichever is your favorite. You tell me, Akka. I'll render that Tirupavai the way the Arayas do it.
My favorite is Malai Manivannan. I just love it. Okay.
Okay. So this is the Kudi Talam, as the Arayas call it. It's very heavy compared to the other Talam that we use for Bhajane or the Nattuvanas Talam. So there is a knot with which it is held in your hand, and you start, playing it. So this is how it goes. So any presentation starts by playing the talam 3 times, and then you start actually rendering. Male Mani Vanna Margadi Niraduvan Melayar Seivanagal Venduvana Kettiye Nyalattai Ellam Nadunga Muralvana Polvana Sangangal Poipadudayanave Sala Perum Parage Pallandu Isaipare Kola Vilake Kodiye Vidaname Alin Ilayai Alin Ilayai Arul Yelor Yembavai Alin Ilayai Arul. That's how it's rendered by the Arayas.
Thank you, Madhu. That was brilliant. And for those who are watching right now and enjoying his presentation and his voice, if you go back on my Instagram page, exactly last Friday was Vaikuntha Ekadasi, and we had a special presentation where Madhusudhanan was chanting the Tirupavai, the Tirupallandu, as well as the first canto of the Natya Tirumuri of Andal, and performing was Aniruddha Night. So if you have missed it by some chance, you can also see him as the priest, and it was a beautiful presentation for about 20 minutes, and after which I had my presentation of food and faith. So as I said, it's been such a great pleasure, Madhu. I know you and I are going to have more and more conversations about Andal and many other things. I want all of you to remember that this is really a very special month. And it's not just that the weather is wonderful, that all of us can wear, especially here in Chennai when it's so hot, that I can really enjoy wearing silks, but also that during these very special times when we don't have the opportunities to go out and actually mingle, this is a great time for us to read. And maybe one of the things that I would like you to read is reach for books of Andal's translations or for the other Bhakti poets. We have with us in the audience a wonderful poet, Priya Saruke Chabria, with whom I'm going to be in conversation next Friday on my Insta Live, because it's Priya's an award-winning poet, but really I think Andal took her hand, and her book of Andal, the autobiography of a goddess, has won her an award, and she goes back to Andal. So we're going to discuss about what it means for a Tamil Vaishnavite woman who didn't grow up in Chennai, for whom Tamil was not such automatic language. How did she come to hear Andal's call, and what was the process of the translation? But that's next Friday. For now, I want to just thank Madhu, and I'm telling you, let me see if there's anything here. Priya saying something. Thanks, Madhu. Thanks, Anita. Yes. Thank you so much for this wonderful information. Yes, there's so much information. Priya has said in one of her interviews, you try to catch up with Andal and she overtakes you. She's always ahead. She's always surprising you. So I want all of you to try and catch Andal's Garden. It's a daily series that appears every morning at 6 a.m. IST across our handles. And in the evenings at 7 o'clock, we have our Friday sessions like this. But we have a lot of artists, dance artists, who are attempting to respond to the Natya Tirumuri, a lesser known but beautiful text. Thank you all for being such a great audience today. I've had such fun. Madhu, thank you so much.
It was really nice. And what would be a better topic or a time to talk about? Margari and Friday evening and Andal, and I think it just made the new year perfect, just perfect.
Yes, thank you so much. We'll have many more conversations, but for now it's time to say goodbye. Andal Tiruvadigaley Charanam. We bow to her spirit, to her magnificence, to her imagination, her brilliance, her poetic merit. And Madhu and I are seized. I know Priya is seized. We hope more of you catch the Andal madness. But until next time, be really safe, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Stay healthy and just be grateful for the breath we take. Good night.
Thank you. Thank you all.